Alright, man, these are the June 2023 Blu-ray and 4K releases. We're going to start out over in the UK on Monday, June 5th. We have a 4K, which has been available in America, but is coming from Second Sight here, which is The Changeling from 1980, starring George C. Scott. And this has had a couple previous releases in the past couple of years. This has a Blu-ray and a 4K from Severin Films, as well as a standard Blu-ray from, I think, Second Sight as well. Now, as for the master, or as I should say, the transfer on the 4K, I don't know who did the Severin transfer. But Second Sight's 4Ks have always been top-notch. I would assume that it might be the same transfer, but I admittedly have not looked up anything about it. But this is coming, but it is also available in America if you don't have it already. It's also important to remember that the 4Ks are region-free as is, so I think there's still some talk about it that, you know, people saying you need a region-free player and all that, but with 4Ks, you're good to go as is. Let's see here on this day as well. Not a whole lot. I mean, when it comes to, I've said before, when it comes to like the big, you know, theatrical releases, I really don't talk about any of those, you know, because a lot of them kind of flood the page here, so I'm going to kind of skip over those, but it looks like that might kind of be it for that day in the UK. But in America, on June 6th, we have the 4 Indiana Jones films coming to 4K with individual releases. They previously got released in a box set a little while ago. I'm not exactly sure when, but now from Paramount is the availability of all 4 of them in time for the new film at the end of the month. So those are available if you are interested. I don't think there's really much to say about those films. They're probably one of the most famous film franchises ever. I think people have known about them and have seen probably all of them, so those are available there. As well, coming from Paramount Pictures as well is Clear and Present Danger with Harrison Ford. This is one of the Jack Ryan films, I think. Also, the other one he did was Patriot Games from, I think that one may have come after. I'm not exactly sure. I saw Clear and Present Danger once a couple years ago, and truthfully, I don't really remember a whole lot about it. They're not exactly my kind of films. I mean, I know they're based off a series of books and stuff, and I've heard the show with I think it's John Krasinski is on that show. I've heard that show is good, but it's not really my thing, but those are coming. I don't know if Patriot Games has a 4K or not. I would imagine that if it doesn't already have one, then it probably is coming. I think it does, actually. You know, I now that I'm looking at it, I think it does. I'm just going to look this up really quick because now it's going to bother me. Okay, it does. Never mind then. So there you go. Now you got those 2 films. As well on this day, from Criterion, we have, from 1939, The Rules of the Game, directed by Jean Renoir. And this is a film that I just only seen for the first time earlier this year. This is a film that has been very influential on a lot of newer French filmmakers, specifically with Truffaut, where he talks about in his in one of the biographies that I read, how he was very much inspired by this film and by Renoir's work. You know, Renoir is a filmmaker who I am not as familiar with. Is a name that I've just heard a bunch of times, but I don't know how many of his films I've seen. I haven't seen like The Grand Illusion or anything like that. I've just seen The Rules of the Game, and that might honestly be it. I'm not exactly sure. I'd have to look at his filmography to see if... Oh, he also did Tony from 1935, which I've seen, which is a good film as well. But yeah, I really like this film, man. You know, it's very cool. I think I would need a second viewing to be able to appreciate it more because I liked it a lot. But you definitely see the influence that it probably had on Buñuel with his critique of bourgeois society later on in his career, with some of his later work. But it's a real solid film, man. Really enjoy this. Lord of War is coming to 4K. This already has a 4K, but this is getting a Best Buy exclusive steelbook, which if you don't already have the film, then you have those 2 options available with a steelbook or a regular standard edition. I've kind of talked about my disdain at some of the exclusive steelbooks that Best Buy's been doing. So, I mean, but the thing is that as long as it has a previous release on 4K, that's all I really care about. But one of the big ones this day, which was just a totally great announcement to hear from 1972, is Paul Bartel's really terrific film, Private Parts.
Welcome to Aunt Martha's King Edward Hotel. Hardly anyone ever checks in. Nobody ever checks out.
What gave you the idea to come here? I don't know what you're looking for, but you won't find it here. Now, I'm letting you stay here on one condition, that you promise not to wander around the hotel alone. This is no place for a little girl.
Sure, all right.
Mrs. Quigley, this is my niece, Cheryl. She's staying with us for a while.
Alice!
Behind each door, there's a private terror. And at the heart of each terror are the private parts.
Great atmospheric horror film from the early 70s starring Anne Ruman, who is a runaway and goes to this kind of rundown hotel. It's a very atmospheric film, and I don't want to give away a whole lot of what's going on. The poster might be able to give something away of it, but very atmospheric film. I remember seeing this trailer when I was like a lot younger and being like pretty unnerved by it, but exceptional stuff. Paul Bartelos is one of these guys who I've gotten more aware of his stuff in the past couple of years. Like I've finally seen like Eating Raoul not too long ago, and just really exceptional filmmaker, man. I think he also directed, what the hell's the name of that film? Well, I guess he also directed Death Race 2000, which I think I've talked about before. I'm not exactly sure. And I was thinking of a different film that was actually directed by Paul Mazursky. So, different film altogether. But definitely, it's funny with Scream and Shell Factory is that, I was talking about with a couple of acquaintances recently is how their recent output has been nothing too exciting. It's mostly just been a lot of 4K upgrades and a lot of site exclusives that, are hit and miss. But it seems like every couple of years or so, or every year, I'm not exactly sure when the releases are, but like they'll have a really exceptional title announced. Like they'll have like Alligator or like Afraid of the Dark, or Alone in the Dark, I'm sorry. And it's just like, wow, where the hell did that come from? So nothing's impossible, man. So it's great to finally get that on Blu-ray. It's been stuck on DVD for years, but yeah, definitely going to be grabbing that for sure. No question about that. Also on this day, we have, I might actually be it for that day. We're looking here, some new releases, some TV and stuff. The Giallo Essentials is coming from Arrow. I know this is another one that is all previous releases of films they've already put out. It's Forbidden Photos of a Lady Above Suspicion. What the hell is this? Death Walks in High Heels and Death Walks at Midnight. I think I've seen Death Walks on High Heels. I own it, but I don't remember if I've seen it or not. You watch enough Giallo, they all start to blend together, unfortunately. But I definitely have seen Forbidden Photos of a Lady Above Suspicion, and it's surprisingly enough one of the better Giallo that I've seen, or Giallo that I've seen. I may have said it before. I'm not really a big Giallo guy. I mean, there's exceptions, but I've seen more ones that I wasn't crazy about, the ones that I've liked. But this one, I remember actually having a really good setup. This woman is being kind of like blackmailed with all these like photos. Although I remember the conclusion not making a whole lot of sense when I saw it, although maybe I missed something, but when they got to the conclusion of the film, I was wondering, where the hell did they get that from, man? But, yeah, I know that, I mean, these are good if you don't already have these films, but if, you already have them, then you're just getting it for the collection itself. I don't know if these are at a discounted price or something like that, but either way, that's there if you're not familiar or don't have those films. Coming back into the UK, on June 12th from Arrow Video is The Lighthouse in 4K from 2019. This has a 4K in the States from A24, and I've mentioned before that, I'm not really crazy about the site exclusives that they've been doing. I think I mentioned recently that I grabbed the movie release of After Sun because initially I was happy to hear it's getting a domestic release, but was disappointed at the real lack of features that it seems like most of the work went into the packaging, and I think there may have even been a different transfer or something like that. I remember watching a guy's a review on the movie release, and I forgot what he said, but I think there was, I could be thinking of something else entirely, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. But anyway, yeah, that coming from Arrow Video. So I mean, like I said, the 4Ks are region free. So if you wanted to get the film and you didn't want to pay, 'cause I think even the prices too are pretty gnarly on A24's site. I mean, I imagine that's going to be like $30, you converted to US, dollars or anything like that. Yeah, this isn't a film I'm particularly a fan of, but I understand that a lot of people are really into this. I really enjoy the work of Robert Eggers, and yeah. So I mean, if this is a film that you like, I would recommend that probably keep an eye on this release if you don't already have it, because this had a previous Blu-ray before. This is the second time it's been on 4K. But the big one on this day for me as well, from 88 Films, is a Cat 3 title that I've been waiting for a Blu-ray and real happy to finally get. From 1993 is Taxi Hunter. This is one that was a little tricky to see for a little while, at least for me. This had an out-of-print DVD that was hard to come by and pretty expensive, and I was trying to find anywhere to watch this, even online, and I eventually came across, strangely enough, Alamo Drafthouse had it up to rent for a couple bucks. So I watched it there, and I just thought this was a real cool film, man. This stars Anthony Wong. I'll say directed by Herman Yao. It stars Anthony Wong, where his there's I don't know how true this actually is, but there's in Hong Kong, there's people look down on taxi drivers, or because they're not like the nicest people stuff. At least going by this film, I don't know what kind of real world accuracy there is for Hong Kong at this time with taxi drivers. But anyway, his pregnant wife, gets into a real bad accident. I mean, it's something else, man, when you see how she gets in this accident. But basically becomes a vigilante against these taxi drivers and becomes sort of like a local hero. And this is just a really terrific Cat 3 film. What a lot of them do so well that I've noticed is just this great balance of what would otherwise be very dark subject matter or very dark sequences, but mixed in with really comical but funny moments. I mean, even if it's not funny, but it's very still enjoyable. You have the whole point of this, the whole act in this is a pregnant woman being dragged and killed by a taxi car, and then you have Anthony Wong throwing a guy over a taxi cab. Man, it's wild, but I really like this film, man. This is one that I'm definitely going to be grabbing for sure. I think this is the third month in a row that I've talked about the Twilight from 1990 still is not out from second run. I don't know when this is coming out, man. We'll see if this actually comes out then. Looks like that's it for that. All right, so jumping back into America on this day, on June 13th, we have Rain Man coming to 4K from... Who was putting this out? It says MVD, but I don't know what studio originally put this out. 1988. I almost said Tom Hanks. Tom Cruise, Dustin Hoffman. Who directed that? I think that was Barry Sonnenfeld, I think. Or I'm sorry, Barry Levinson. Who's Barry Sonnenfeld? Yeah, I remember. I've seen this once a long time ago. Good performances from Tom Hanks and Dustin Hoffman. I mean, there's a fine line to draw when it comes to playing, and when an actor plays a mentally challenged character, and I think Dustin Hoffman kind of rides that line here. I mean, he does a good job, and so does Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks. So does Tom Cruise. I mean, I remember not being really crazy with the film. It's a little too melodramatic and a little too Hollywood for my liking, but I mean, it's there. It's not by any means a terrible film. It's just I understand why this is kind of beloved as it is. I mean, you watch it. It's a Hollywood film. It's a very shallow kind of script, but by the end you feel emotionally satisfied, and I think that's enough for some people. Coming from Criterion, another Terry Gilliam 4K is Time Bandits from 1981. Previously they had The Fisher King a couple months ago, and The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, as well as Arrow has 12 Monkeys in 4K, and I think this is probably my second favorite Terry Gilliam film behind 12 Monkeys. Really fun science fiction time travel film. You got Sean Connery in this film, Shelley Duvall. Who else is in this film? I'm trying to remember. I have to pull a list up here. Shelley Duvall, John Cleese. The main kid, I don't know who he is, but yeah, just a real fun, really enjoyable, kind of a lighthearted time travel film. He's going through time with all these dwarves, and they're jumping from just these different time periods and stuff. It's real cool stuff, man. I just have a lot of fun with this. I got a feeling that Brazil's probably going to come to 4K fairly soon. I just imagine that it would be if it's in line with the other Terry Gilliam 4Ks that Criterion have been putting out, but I don't know who owns that right now. I mean, I know Criterion put it out before, but it might be different studios now. Shell Factory are putting out Shaw Brothers Classics Volume 1, and I bring this up, I haven't seen the films in the set, but I bring this up because at the time of recording this, they actually just announced Volume 2 as well. So they did the same thing with the Jackie Chan collection, where they announced Volume 2 before, from what I can remember, before the first one was even out. So between these two sets and then the two Shawscope sets that Arrow have out, and supposedly a third one is coming out. I remember hearing about that, but I haven't heard any follow up on that. So take that with a grain of salt. But I mean, there's plenty of Shaw Brothers films I have just not seen, so I can't gauge which ones are higher above than others. When it came to Volume 2 that got announced today, and Acquaintance of Mine was saying that Flying Guillotine was very good, so I haven't seen that yet. But speaking of Acquaintance of Mine, he got an early copy of the, I don't know if this is the first or the second 4K from Dark Force, Scream from 1981, and he had some very negative things to say about this film and the release. Dark Force is such a strange label, man. And, man, I don't know. It's just some strange stuff they're doing. And they have The Black Gestapo coming out on 4K later, which is a strange choice. I like that film, but it's just, yeah, I don't know, man. It's just something else. I also wanted to mention with Indicator that, they have 2 box sets coming out on this day in the US and the UK, which is the Mexico Macabre, 4 Sinister Tales from the Alameda Films Vault from 1959 and 1963. And the films are The Black Pit of Dr. M, The Witch's Mirror, The Brainiac, and The Curse of the Crying Woman, as well as their other box set being From Hollywood to Heaven, The Lost and Saved films of the Ormond family from 1956 to 1984. And there's quite a bit here that I have not seen. So, I mean, I've always had, nothing but high praise on Indicator's releases on their box sets, especially. I don't own many of their box sets, so I have not been able to keep up with them, just because sometimes it's a little bit trickier to blind buy a box set of work that you're not familiar with, unless it gets some real positive talk, so I'll have to keep an eye out on this when this releases as well. Mondo Macabre are putting out the standard Blu-ray of their 1989 film, Dr. Caligari, and I bring this up because I just watched this yesterday, because I got the 4K from their Black Friday sale. And it's a strange film, man. It's one that I don't know if I can entirely recommend or not, but it's one of a kind for sure, from the director of Cafe Flesh, which fingers crossed that gets released at some point. That's still stuck on DVD. And actually Fun City just put out a vinyl of that last year, I think. So, I mean, crazier things have happened. But yeah, it's a strange film where it's definitely not a lazy film. I was actually really taken aback by almost every sequence in the film is a new set, where the everything looks like it's on a soundstage intentionally. I mean, it's making a whole world of its own. It's contrasting, the original the original Captain Dr. Caligari with these very bright kind of, bright reds on black backgrounds and stuff. But I think really the thing that kind of turns me off the film, it's a little too broad. Everybody's playing a little bit too big. There's a lot of mugging for the camera. There's a lot of just strange dialogue choices, and there's a lot of just sequences where the humor just does not work for me at all. They're just, I commend the actors. They have some long monologues, but as impressive as it is for their line memorization, there are just some times where the film just does not work for me. It's an interesting film, though. I haven't watched any of the features on the release yet, but I know they interviewed the 2 main actors, and actually, I didn't realize that the one of the main actors in the film who plays Les Van Houten, obvious reference right there, but that she went on to become like a big Hollywood stunt performer and a stunt woman. So good for her, man. I don't think a lot of the cast did a lot else. Like the main woman who plays Dr. Caligari, I don't think she did a lot after this. But I mean, you're either gonna get a lot out of it or you're not. I mean, I was kind of down the middle in this. I really don't know who to recommend this to, unless you just are really unless I don't know, you think it's going to be your kind of film. I really can't say for sure. You have to kind of find that out for yourself. But it is available. I don't know if that 4K is still in print or not. I think they sold out of that. I really don't know. But either way, it's there. Scrolling through the list here. As well as The Witch's Mountain coming from Mondo Macabre getting a standard release as well. They do that with their original red Blu-rays. Blu-ray cases, and they eventually do a standard release later once that either sells out or... I don't actually know if they have to sell out or not. Because I'm trying to think, because Emmanuel in America, I don't think ever sold out of that red case, but that got a standard release as well. So I really can't say for sure. But either way, those are there. So, so be it. Alright, let's see. Back into the UK on June 19th. From Eureka, Revenge, from, what year? This is 1964. I think I was going to watch this, but I may have just totally forgot. I am not familiar with this film at all. All of the titles they've been putting out lately, I've just not been familiar with. And I feel like I want to catch up on a lot of these, but it can be a bit overwhelming at times. As well as Samurai Reincarnation from 1981, which I'm also not familiar with. Radiance Films are still doing good work. They have The Hotspot coming from 1990. This is directed by Dennis Hopper, starring, who was it? It was Virginia Madsen, and I don't remember the main guy in the film. Kino have a Blu-ray of this out. I'm sorry. Don Johnson, of course. What am I getting mixed up with? I think I'm getting mixed up with somebody else. And completely forgot Jennifer Connelly's in this film. I watched it once. I truthfully, it didn't really stick with me. I remember some sequences in the film, but I'd be curious as to how the Radiance release compares to this. As well as they're putting out Red Sun on that day, which is also getting a U.S. release as well. But interestingly enough, from 88 Films, they're getting Burial Ground on 4K, and that's just a wild title to get on 4K. I don't know if you guys have seen Burial Ground. That has a current Blu-ray from Severin Films, and that is just such a strange film, man. It's one of these films you kind of have to see for yourself. Directed by Andrea Bianchi, or Bianchi, I don't know how to say his name. And I'm not even familiar with a lot of his other work, but it's a strange film, man. It's very cheap. I mean, it's sort of like these people who go to this mansion, they get attacked by these zombies, but you can just see they're reusing a lot of them, a lot of the masks. And there's one part they're using like a Frankenstein monster mask. It's very, very obvious. They have this grown man who's playing this child who wants to have sex with his mom. It's so strangely compelling. It's not quite, when I say it's like a cult film, I imagine people are quick to go, oh, it's so bad, it's good, so bad, it's good. It's not even that. It's just bizarre, man. But what a cool film, man. I mean, I'd be very curious how the transfer looks on this, because I'm not the biggest fan of that Severin Films releases. The transfer on that is not really the best. I don't want to be too critical. I understand that it's not easy work to do, and I understand that the elements might not be the best, so it's easy to criticize of a film that, doesn't have the best elements. But either way, I'm very curious about that one, man. It's gonna be, I don't know, I might have to import that. That's something else, man. Gosh, what a time to be alive, man. Inland Empire is getting its 4K release from Studio Canal. Actually, I don't know if this is actually a 4K. I think this might just be the 4K restoration on a Blu-ray. I'm looking here because it looks like it's just a regular Blu-ray case. So I only mention that because of the new restoration that came out with Criterion's 4K and their Blu-ray as well. So I think that might just be a Blu-ray of that with the new transfer, the new transfer, I should say. So looking out on here for some of the other things, looks like that will be it for that day. Some of the titles that are also coming out in the U.S., I usually just go and wait to talk about for the U.S. Releases, so I know that like the Custom Master box set is coming, but I'll talk about that in a bit. So on June, I just lost my place here. Sorry about that. On June 20th, we have two John Frankenheimer Kino 4Ks, two of his finest work, and two of his, one of his later work, one of his earlier work, I should say. The later work being Ronin from 1998, starring Robert De Niro. It has a great cast, by the way. Stellan Skarsgård. What the hell's her name? Natasha. I'm blanking on her last name. That's embarrassing. Natasha McLeone. Yes, that's right. And Jean Reno. Sean Bean in a small role. Michael Lonsdale. A great later work from him, man. I think this is one where I believe Reindeer Games might be his final feature film, but this one feels kind of like the closest thing to it being a final work of his, because I mean the thing with this film is that the action in this film specifically is so well directed, and the violence in this film really hurts. And when I say it hurts, I mean that it's not afraid to just openly shoot innocent people, man. Where people just get in the way, where you're shooting down a crowded street, people are going to get in the way. The car chases are exceptional. I think it does suffer a bit with the plot. I rewatched this for my 1998 episode because I'd seen this originally, so I've seen this twice now, and both times I think the plot isn't totally there for me. But ultimately, I think that the action is so solid, and this is what I was talking about recently with somebody with De Niro, where I feel like this is one of the last kind of performances that he was giving where it really felt like he was. And this might sound like a jab, but when I say I promise you it's not, but it kind of feels like this is the last one he's really committed to the role, because he's had great performances since. I mean, he's great in Joker, he's great in The Irishman, ironically both 2019. But I think there's definitely a cutoff period where it feels like he starts doing more. I don't even want to say lighter stuff because it's not just that, but he feels a little more not as attuned to the character. But terrific stuff. But the one of his films, Frankenheimer's, that I watched earlier this year, that has been one of the best things I've seen this year, is Manchurian Candidate, starring Frank Sinatra, Lawrence Harvey, and Janet Leigh, who Frank Sinatra as well has really just like the more work I've seen of his, the more I really like him as an actor. I watched that film that he did, Some Came Running, from 1958. I don't know if I watched that from my 1958 one or not, with Shirley MacLaine, which is a cool film, man. And even a film like High Society that I wasn't a fan of, he's a very charismatic actor, and he's a very Frank Sinatra as a person, as a character, man. I mean, he's just sort of like this, I recommend just watching any of the times Don, oh my God, what the hell's his name? Gosh, man, that is not good. My memory is starting to go, man. Somebody's probably screaming at me right now what the hell the name is. Don Rickles. I was trying to say Don Knotts. That's not the right guy. Don Rickles, anytime he was roasting Snatch, that's all great. But this is a real great, I know I keep saying real, but bear with me, a real great government conspiracy film. A lot of those that I normally, I find myself getting wrapped up in a lot of those because I'm not a conspiracy guy at all. I'm not a government conspiracy guy, but for whatever reason, I found those to be the most engaging films. And the way that this is directed is so well done. It's very much like, I haven't seen this film seconds yet, but a lot of the shots that I've seen of that film remind me of the kind of slow panning, kind of stable shots that he does in this. Maybe I'm not explaining it the best way. Shall say Angela Lansbury is in this film as well. But yeah, terrific stuff, man. I'll definitely be grabbing this for sure. Let's see. Now, I think this might be a re-release. I'm not exactly sure, but Insidious is getting a 4K. Well, looks to be a steelbook. I'm not exactly sure. Because I didn't even realize till recently. I went to the cinema about a month or two ago. I saw a trailer for the new one. I was like, I didn't even know there was a new one. I think I may have heard some talk about it, but this looks like it might be a steelbook. I really don't know. I couldn't tell you. I mean, Insidious, there's been a lot of the past, because this was 2011, or 2010, I should say. There's been a lot of films that have followed in this film's wake that, this kind of horror film, and I like Insidious, don't get me wrong, but this kind of mainstream theatrical horror film, I just really am not. It's just not for me. I know people like those Conjuring films. I get the appeal of those, that's fine, but those are just totally not for me. I just find me a bit loud, a bit obnoxious. And Insidious, I think, and I like the sequels, I like 2 and 3, I think they're pretty good, but I think what this film does, that it does have those obnoxious moments of just really just cheap kind of jump scares, which jump scares aren't bad, but I feel like sometimes, at least theatrically, it's been overdone, but I think this film, for not having a big budget, it does a lot with atmosphere that I think is very well done. The sequence in the third act, when one of the characters goes to this otherworldly kind of place, it's very well done, just simple makeup, simple like a fog machine and stuff. I haven't seen the fourth one. I heard the fourth one is pretty rough, and the fifth one, I'm not really interested in this franchise, but I do think the first one is a good film for sure. But a horror film that's kind of more my liking, at least a kind of horror film, is been one of my favorite horror films the past couple of years, which has been Skinamarink.
In this house. In this house.
This was directed by Kyle Edward Ball. Originally, from what I heard, this got some discussion online. This was put out online, and then Shudder had picked it up for distribution and put it on their service. Gave it a small theatrical run, and then it's coming to Blu-ray now, which is great that Shudder. Every time I see one of their releases, I'm just happy they're doing physical releases at all. They've done Dark Glasses and VHS 99, and even before then, when they were just doing DVDs, Ruin Me. I remember that film. But yeah, this is a divisive film for sure. I've talked about it before. This is one of the few times where I would say, if you're interested in the film, watch the trailer. The trailer is not going to give really any. It's very light on plot, which can be either a positive or negative, depending how you look at it. But if you watch the trailer and you're okay with that for 100 minutes, then you're going to know whether or not it's going to be your kind of film or not. It's very, very much heavy on atmosphere, very little plot. It's almost just entirely atmosphere. And, I don't know if this was a COVID film or not, but when a lot of those films that were coming out during COVID, where I feel like, I don't want to say gimmicky, that's not the right word, but, I would say it's more gimmicky when I see COVID stuff implemented in the film, where that's part of the story. That instantly just dates itself, man. I don't know why I don't know why so many filmmakers, I know why they did it, but, but there's just been a lot of not great COVID, quote-unquote, films that were just made around that time. And there's some that people like, and I get it, but there's just been some I'm just like, man, this is just all the same to me. And you're either going to be really on board with this film or not. And this is totally my kind of film. This is just a very avant-garde experimental film. I do think, I've talked about this more in depth on a recent episode back in January. So, I will say it is a little too long for the kind of film that it is. It's an hour and 40 minutes, and I don't think this needed to be more than an hour 20 for as light as it is on atmosphere. But I think this is watching this theatrically, I just had a great experience with this. It got under my skin. There's just some images in this film that are just very haunting, but are so simple, man. It's a very simple movie to make, but that I imagine have been made, but I just thought this was a really exceptional film. So maybe you'll dig it, maybe you don't. Like I said, check out the trailer. It's gonna be your thing or not. You know, you really gotta. I find it more interesting films that are kind of divisive to experience for yourself, to gain your own opinion on it, and not just follow the crowd one way or another. You know. The Cosa Nostra set, coming from Radiance Films, the Franco Nero and the Three Mafia Tales by Damiano Damiani, and I have not seen these films. Again, with the Radiant stuff, I've just been not keeping up with their stuff, but everything they've been putting out, I've been hearing, like, I mean, mostly good stuff. Now, an acquaintance of mine talked about Yakuza Graveyard recently, and it just has some really positive things about that. So, yeah, it's just, you know, you can only get so much, only walk so much, so you can only do what you can do. As well as, I thought there was another title. Oh yeah, that's right, Red Sun they were doing on that day. 2 releases from Criterion, The Servant from 1963 and Medicine from Melancholy from 2008. I am not familiar with either of these films. The Servant I thought was directed by somebody I knew, maybe not. Joseph Lousy, directed by screenplay by Harold Pinter. Gosh, I am drawing a blank on that name right now. Not Harold Pinter, Joseph Lousy. Or Lousy, am I saying that right? I always pronouncing these last names wrong. What else did he direct? Yeah, I may not be familiar with his work, so, yeah, I really have nothing to say about this one. Oh, he did The Damned from 1962, which I have, but I haven't watched. Okay. Oh, okay, he also did The Boy with Green Hair, which is coming to Warner Archives soon, so, okay, at least I know some of his work. Well, I haven't seen some of his work, but I know the name, at least. But either way, those are there on that day. I should also mention before that with Ronin, that previously had a Blu-ray from Arrow, which I imagine is probably out of print now if Kino are putting it out, but they also have a standard Blu-ray on the same day as well. Looking down here, looks like a lot of re-releases. What is this? Oh, okay, never mind. I was like, what the? Never mind, that's a long story, guys. Never mind. Alright, so just going back in the UK on this day. Gotta scroll down to the bottom here. I'm using the Blu-ray app on my phone because my gosh, I cannot even tell you the headaches I've been having with the website on my computer lately. It's all those ads, man. Those ads on those sites drive me nuts. I think there was one time I was recording this, one of the ads went off, it scared the hell out of me. Keeping up with more titles I haven't seen, man. From Eureka and 88 Films, we have Eureka's putting out Lady Reporter, aka The Blonde Fury, and 88 Films are putting out Twin Dragons. Twin Dragons, I thought I just got a release. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. Or maybe I must be thinking of something else, man. This is a Jackie Chan film. Yeah, I thought, whatever that recent Jackie Chan Sammo Hung film that just came out, for whatever reason, I thought that's what this was called. But I guess not. But then, again, with Lady Reporter, Cynthia Rothrock's been getting a lot of her work put out the past couple of years or so. I'm a big fan of Righting Wrongs that Vinegar Syndrome put out. I just grabbed Millionaire's Express from Arrow, and she's in that, along with, she's in the middle of the big cast in that film, but she's one I primarily know. And man, she's just, everything I've been seeing her in, she's just been, like, it's just really cool that they're putting in a lot of her stuff, man. So that people like me can actually be on top of her work, man. Let's see. I don't know if this is... I think this might be UK only release, I don't know, but Waterworld's coming to 4K. That was a previous Arrow Blu-ray. This is an Arrow 4K as well. Also, Zombie Holocaust is coming from 88 Films as well, aka Dr. Butcher MD, which I think those are 2 different cuts of that film. I've never seen, actually. Let's see here. Yeah, for whatever reason, I've actually never seen either of these films. I had a Blu-ray of Zombie Holocaust. I don't know what happened to it. And then Dr. Butcher MD, Severin put out, and I never picked it up. So could not tell you, the quality on there. But one of the ones I'm really looking forward to, for sure, is coming from Studio Canal, 4K of Jean-Luc Godard's Contempt.
Je m'as dit que tu m'aimais. J'ai surtout menti.
On lui a dit que vous avez une femme très belle.
Chose entre toi et Francoche? Pourquoi est-ce que tu me méprises? Moi ou je te fais mal?
I think this might be the first Godard film to come out on 4K, because Breathless is coming out in the States from Criterion next month, I believe. But this is probably my second favorite Godard film behind Pierre Le Fou. Just a real solid film, and it's interesting reading his the biography that I read on him, and the not so great experience that was had making this film. This is a studio film This has a great cast behind it. Got Bridget Bardot and Jack Palance, and Small World by Fritz Lang playing himself. And I just think this is an exceptional film, man. I'm definitely going to be grabbing this 4K for sure. Unquestionably, man. I would love if Pierre LeFou gets a 4K as well, but we shall see. I mean, he has so much work that it's just, you're not going to I'm still going through a lot of his work that plenty of titles. I don't think I have Blu-rays at all, but I really don't know. Because we're going to get standard Blu-ray on that day as well with the new transfer on that. So like I say, for the UK for June, and then in the last week in the US on January 27th, we have Creepshow coming to 4K, what I was talking about before, from Scream Factory or Shout Factory. This has had a previous Blu-ray from Scream Factory. I imagine this probably has the same features on that release. Creepshow from 1982, directed by George Romero. Maybe I've said it before, maybe I've not. I'm not a fan of anthologies almost at all. They really, really don't appeal to me. I just wish I liked them, but I never do. But I mean, this is an exception. It goes without saying. I mean, this is really all the stories in this are really top notch. Really different kinds of stories too. The one with Leslie Nielsen on the beach is purely psychological. It's all psychological, but then the thing with that one that I like and dislike about it is that it feels like it belongs to a different film, because you have what I think is the whole story of that is great. There's great tension, and the ending I think goes for a completely different tone, more in line with like a Creepshow comic book. But it's still a good segment. I'm definitely not knocking it, but I think that's kind of where I line up more with the genre kind of fare. That one was called. I just had the name of it right here, and now I am losing it again. Something to Tide You Over. There we go. And you have one like The Crate, which is more kind of body horror, Father's Day. But it is a solid film, though. I think this is just, for somebody like me who's not an anthology guy, if I'm saying that it's a good film, that it really stand out more than just, being a good genre film. But I think most genre fans probably seen this one, so I don't really need to talk about it a whole lot. National Lampoon's Vacation coming to 4K from Warner Brothers. Like I said before, I really like what they're doing with their new 100-year anniversary 4K. So it's been all new artwork, which is great, or new release artwork, I should say. And I really like the artwork they're using here for Vacation. It's funny they put John Candy in the cover when he has one scene in the film. I mean, this is a film that I think most people probably know about or have seen. This spawned 3 sequels and a remake. I think it was a remake or a sequel. It was when they were doing a lot of those weird like remake sequel kind of things. Chevy Chase, Beverly D'Angelo. This is the sequels are good. Well, I've never actually seen Vegas Vacation, but I heard that's not very good. I like Christmas Vacation. I like European Vacation, but this one, I think it's never been one of my favorite comedies, but the charisma of Chevy Chase is really, really strong in this one. You can see how he's such a great leading man in this, really great comedic presence, and really is able to hold a lot of this film, and Randy Quaid as well when he comes into the film. It's just fantastic stuff, man. The partner label titles from Vinegar Syndrome, I think I don't know if they're all releasing on this day, but there's a couple here that are listed, like Trouble Every Day from Film Desk, Irreversible coming from Altered Innocence. This has both the original and the straight cut that was on the indicated release as well. If you could only get one of the releases, I would undeniably say the indicator version is the way to go. Even with the standard edition of that, it's just an incredible release, one of their best releases that I've come across. But Gaspar Noé's masterpiece from 2002, this is one that I've talked about before, but I rewatched it when that indicator Blu-ray came out, and it just blew me away. I'd seen it before, but seeing it again with time passed and being more familiar with Noé's work, it really kind of cemented it as being a powerful film, at least a really exceptional work. Whereas before, when I had seen it, it was the first, I imagine it's probably a lot of people's first Noé film they see because it is so infamous and so controversial, but I think it's just the sound design, the directing choices, the performances all around, Vincent Cassel, Monica Bellucci, and the friend who I apologize, I don't know his name, but just I think it's an exceptional film. I think it's still my favorite Gaspar Noé film, and one of the highlights of genre films of the early 2000s. And when I say genre films, I don't mean horror films. I think that it's kind of blend together, but it's just a really great, really more of like a thriller. I guess you can call it whatever you want. You call it a horror thriller. I really don't care. The only thing I care about is a good or a bad film. People get way too hung up with that sort of stuff. Oh, is this horror? Is this thriller? Is this comedy? Hey, is it good? That's all I care about. Let's see here. A lot of the Full Moon titles are getting re-released in this Enter the Video Store Hero Video box set. Dungeon Master, Dolls, Cellar Dweller, Arena, Robot Jocks. Oh, that's just those 5. Yeah, Dolls has had a previous release from Scream Factory, Cellar Dweller, which I think I own. Is that the one? I'm going to look this up. I think it's the one with the lady drawing the comic books in the basement and the creature comes to life. Maybe not. Maybe that is something else entirely. No, I was correct. It is exactly that. Okay. It's in that film. It's alright. Yeah, it's good. I don't think I've seen Dungeon Master Arena Robot Jocks. I'm not a big Full Moon guy. Nothing against them or anything like that. I just haven't seen enough of their films, but that is coming. I know it already has been put out at Texas Frightmare this past weekend at the time of recording this, but also I should say that Waterworld 4K is coming to US as well. Motel Hell's getting an upgrade from Shout Factory in 4K. This was one that's funny. This was a little tricky to find for a couple of years. This was on a double DVD of one of those Warner Brothers Midnight double DVDs with, was it Deranged that was on? I don't remember. Either way, now it's available. Hey, you got it in 4K now. Good God, man. Now this is cool, man, but I'm a little worried about the box that's going to look like. We have Pasolini 101 coming from Criterion. This includes the films that they haven't already released. So his Trilogy of Life is not part of this. Solo isn't part of this. I was telling you guys before when I was reading that Revolution Hollywood book, or Revolution book, about the new wave of films that were coming from 1960 to 1970. And there had been some Pasolini's work that was mentioned in there, and this box is from 61 to 69. So like Acetone was one that I was put on my watch list, but I am now happy that is going to be part of this box set. I seem a little worried about the box set because Criterion are very hit or miss with their box set releases. I say more so their packaging. Like the Bergman set is solid, the Fellini set is pretty good, the Godzilla set is horrible. I really can't sugarcoat that. Man, that Varda set is not very good either, man. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but their packaging is super hit or miss, man. And I'm not trying to be a jerk. I mean, I'm going to be buying this regardless, but just praying for the best on this one, man. Let's see here. Mallrats is coming to 4K from Arrow Video. This had a previous release from Arrow. X-Ben, I have not seen this film since high school, man. This was Kevin Smith's follow-up to Clerks. I remember liking this enough. I've said before, maybe I have, maybe I haven't, is that Clerks is one of my all-time favorite films. It was a very inspirational film when I was in high school. Just about like, actually probably before high school, probably middle school or so, when it came to just, the Kevin Smith story. I remember I had that Clerks X DVD that had that great that 90-minute documentary about the making of, and the when they went to Sundance with that. I just think that, I'm not the biggest, I'm really not crazy about Kevin Smith's films after that, but that story is just so, of him getting that film made is just so inspirational. And again, it gives me another opportunity to recommend that book. Gosh, what the hell's the name of that book? Man, my memory is fried today. From, oh man, I'm going to have to, Down and Dirty Pictures by Peter Biskin, that's what it was. Anyways, moving on from there. But yeah, that's coming to 4K on that day. Some more Warner Archive titles that I'm not familiar with. Damn Don't Cry, The Old Man in the Sea, Caged, Dangerous When Wet. The White Buffalo is getting a re-release. This is a Charles Bronson film. I don't know who directed this one, but I just read a little while ago Bronson's Loose about the making of the Death Wish films, and they had mentioned this film in there. Briefly, I think is this Michael? No, this is J. Lee Thompson. That's what it was. Oh, you know what actually it was? It wasn't that. I mean, I read that book, but it was, I think it's Cinema Speculation when Tarantino was talking about J. Lee Thompson. I think he brings his film up at one point. It was one of the two, but either way. And then some of the other partner label titles coming from OCN. Debbie Does Demons from Culture Shock. Attack of the Demons from Dark Star. Morven Caller is getting a standard release from MVD and Fun City. I think this is MVD. I mean, it has the MVD logo, but it's Fun City, so I'm not exactly sure what that is. I think they're the ones distributing Fun City's work from now on. I remember hearing that, but I don't know how true that actually was. But then some other just re-release titles here, just some standard editions of titles that already have previous releases. But looks like that might be it. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be it for that day. All right, so that was June. Quite a mouthful there. How long are we at? 42 minutes? Good God, these episodes are getting longer and longer. But alright, man. Check them out. Check out some of these titles. Check out some of these Blu-rays. It's good stuff, man.